Think about how you were taught to view the world for a second. If you grew up in the West, chances are you were handed a pretty strict, linear, creationist worldview, right? A world with a very distinct beginning, a middle, and a definitive end. But what if that linear perspective is actually fundamentally incomplete? In this explainer, we're going to challenge that whole approach. We're diving into a really fascinating framework, the ancient concept of circularity. And as you'll see, modern complexity science is actually validating exactly what ancient Eastern texts predicted literally thousands of years ago. Okay, here's our map for today. We've got 5 main stops: linear versus circular thinking, ancient wisdom meets science, polarity and flowing circulation, harmony and feedback loops, and finally, the spiral of growth.
Section 1. Linear versus circular thinking.
So we really have to start by establishing the core philosophical divide between how the East and the West approach basically everything, from hard science to modern economics. The Western reductionist approach, which is almost certainly what you learned in school, tries to understand the universe by breaking things apart. It divides matter into smaller and smaller independent particles. Think atoms, molecules, that sort of thing. The East, however, relies on something called correlative thinking. Instead of zooming in and breaking things down, this method zooms out to look at combinations. It observes how the entire whole circulates, recognizing that all things are deeply interconnected and honestly just can't be separated.
And that brings us to our core definition: circularity. In this framework, matter isn't defined just by what it is in isolation. No, it's defined by the role it plays within a grand, overarching cycle. It is the absolute polar opposite of an isolated, linear creation event. Having this concept firmly in your mind is absolutely crucial, because we are about to explore the 5 foundational pillars that make this circular universe function.
Section 2. Ancient wisdom meets science.
It's one thing to talk about ancient Eastern philosophy, right? But it's another entirely to see how it perfectly aligns with the cutting edge of modern physics and math. For centuries, Western thinkers practically drove themselves crazy trying to construct a perfect, linear, exception-free system of laws to explain the universe. But mathematician Kurt Gödel actually proved that this is a complete illusion. His incompleteness theorems showed that any system referencing itself will inherently have exceptions. Along with Russell's paradox, Gödel essentially declared the bankruptcy of linear Western philosophy. He proved that to truly understand reality, we literally need circular reasoning.
And modern science is stepping right into that circular space today. Complexity science, network theory, and the quantum observer effect, where the mere act of observing something literally changes its behavior, are all totally validating the correlative thinking found in ancient texts like the I Ching. Think about the concept of self-organization for a second. A great example is the incredibly synchronized movement of millions of Red Devils fans during the 2002 World Cup in South Korea. That wasn't some mechanistic top-down machine orchestrated by a single director, right? It was an organic, self-organizing system. It was circularity in action.
Section 3. Polarity and flowing circulation.
Now that we know circularity is scientifically grounded, let's look at its first 2 mechanical pillars. The first pillar is polarity, or day-day. In the West, we usually view opposites as a battle, good versus evil, light versus dark, where one just has to overcome the other. Honestly, as humans, we usually just prefer to crush our opposites rather than deal with them. But day-day means facing each other and waiting. It's the harmony of difference. Think of plants and animals. Plants emit oxygen and absorb carbon dioxide, while we, animals, inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. They are complete opposites, yet through their difference, they form a perfect feedback loop that sustains eternal life. If polarity is the spatial setup, flowing circulation is the movement of time. So, static polarity is like the foundational structure of water and fire balancing each other out in space. But of course, the universe isn't frozen. Dynamic flowing circulation is what happens when that yin and yang interact continuously through time, which creates the endless cycle of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. The metaphor of a fountain perfectly captures this flowing circulation. Honestly, this is the image you really want to hold in your head. Picture it. Water gathers at the bottom, representing winter or the ultimate yin. Then it bursts powerfully and linearly upward, kind of like a young sprout in spring. It reaches its peak and spreads out horizontally in all directions, representing summer, and finally it falls vertically downward, without end, returning to the bottom. It gathers, rises, spreads, and returns.
Now let's translate these abstract ideas into concrete economics, because it's absolutely fascinating how this maps out across completely different cultures.
Polarity connects to the profound Daeshun concept of imyong-hapdak, which is the union of yin-yang. In Western economic terms, this actually perfectly aligns with libertarianism, the movement of independent actors trying to achieve their own equilibrium. Flowing circulation, on the other hand, connects to Doutong Jinying, the perfection of the Tao, and that scales up into communitarianism, the overarching cycle maintained by the community as a whole.
Section 4, Harmony and Feedback Loops.
So we have our static poles and our dynamic flow, but how does this cycle avoid just spinning completely out of control? The answer is neutralization, or jungwa. This is the delicate act of harmonizing the turbulent seasons of the periphery from a grounded center. And according to the texts, humanity plays a profoundly vital role here. Because humans are the only beings in the cosmos possessing both mind and body, yin and yang, we act as the central mediators. We sit right at the center of the cycle, neutralizing and harmonizing the wild forces around us.
While neutralization happens right at the center, return, or huigui, manages the outside edge of the circle. Return is quite literally a scientific feedback loop. On a circular path, every single action eventually comes back to its source. The source material outlines this beautifully. Actions that benefit others create positive feedback and eventually return to you as virtue. Conversely, actions that obstruct the natural circulation of the system return to you as enmity or negative feedback. It's the ultimate what goes around comes around. Applying these two pillars to our economic blueprint shows another amazing parallel. Harmony aligns with the Daeshun concept of Hawan Sungseng, the resolution of grievances to create mutual benefit. Economically, this mirrors utilitarianism, which is all about pursuing the common public good. Return connects to Sinin Joha, the harmony between the divine and the human. In an economic sense, that acts a lot like social contractarianism, maintaining the vital rules and social contracts so that the grand cycle can continue to flow freely without any obstruction.
Section 5, The Spiral of Growth.
Up until now, you might be picturing a flat, repetitive loop, but this fifth pillar completely transforms our blueprint. I want you to reconsider everything we've discussed so far. A flat circle is a closed loop. It just spins in place forever. But what if nature doesn't actually work that way? What if, instead of just blindly repeating, the universe actively expands and grows with every single revolution?
Well, this brings us to the ultimate shape of the cosmos, the spiral, or nation. Traditional Western economics operates on the assumption of diminishing returns. The idea that the more you produce, the less value you get over time. But complexity economics and the ancient texts tell us that natural circular motion actually increases production. It operates under a law of increasing returns, pushing past previous boundaries through what are known as limit returns. Because the cycle is a spiral, it transcends its previous limits with every single rotation, constantly building upon itself. And we see this cosmic spiral absolutely everywhere in nature. I mean, literally everywhere. It scales from the unimaginably massive to the incredibly microscopic. Entire galaxies move through the universe in vast spirals. The very blueprint of our life, DNA, is a double helix spiral. Atoms and electrons exhibit spiral-like motion. Even a young sprout. When you watch a seed sprout in a time-lapse, it doesn't just push straight up. It rotates in a powerful spiral motion to break through the hard soil.
This all ties together in the very word Daeshun. It means to circulate and spread throughout heaven and earth. It doesn't mean to just spin around in a static circle. It means revolving greatly while growing, constantly producing new things. Daeshun embodies this ultimate, expanding, life-generating spiral of the entire cosmos.
So let's synthesize our blueprint here. If you want to apply this ancient wisdom and modern complexity to your understanding of economics, nature, or even just your own life, here are the steps. 1. Acknowledge interconnected polarity. We need to stop seeing differences as battles to be won and start seeing them as systems waiting for harmony. 2. Be the human at the center, mediating that harmony, ensuring the feedback loops stay positive. And 3. Embrace the spiral. Know that true natural systems are built for continuous growth, not diminishing returns.
I'll leave you with a final thought today. You are a part of this incredible self-organizing system. If our universe is indeed a constantly growing spiral, driven by the energy we put into it, what small feedback loop can you change today to elevate your own cycle tomorrow? Take some time to think about that and keep exploring the fascinating world of complexity science. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.